you know, we're dealing with two different programs. The ShopBot just does whatever you tell it, whatever you feed it. So what you did is manually fold it. Here's where the Z-axis is. Here's where your board starts, right? Is this little corner. So now what we're going to use is vCarve to create a whole file of places to move, to tell it to move. And it turns out that those positions where it's going to move are going to create our op. So we'll keep it open. See that quick? Yeah. So what tooltips are ways to cut, right? So you have to tell it, you have to be very explicit about how do I want to cut this part, right? So what we've got, if you look at it, what do you think, how would you go about cutting it? If you had to tell the machine how to cut it, what do you think you should do?
The one where it goes all the way through.
Well, right, these, now remember, these are rings. Hey, Mackenzie. So, sorry, I want to
No, go ahead. Nope, just keep going.
So we need to cut this. So how do we think we need to cut it? What do you think needs to happen? How do we tell this machine to cut that?
Just the outside.
Yeah, well, so we want to cut holes. So we want to say, hey, drill these 4 holes. Right? And you got to remember too, this is hidden inside that block of wood. We're going to bring it out, right? But we don't want to cut the outside first, because then what's going to happen? It's going to fall and be loose, right? And we'll never get it, we'll lose our alignment. So we always want to go inside out. So the first thing we want to do is cut the inside. And what we call that is, what's called in there is a pocket. Right? So if you, so this tool fighting, we can out. Right? But the first thing we want to do is the holes, right? So see that top one that says holes left? So, well, let me go back up. So those are all the things we want to do to cut. Go to the next.
Sure.
Okay. Great. That's perfect. Do the same thing with the 120.
No doubt.
You know what? So just do this. You don't have to.
Two people carry it.
Just turn it over and dump it. Because it's got stuff in it. Take that from me.
We need somebody to vacuum the thingies.
Which wood were we using? That one?
Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
Alright, we'll plant these back now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna kind of just set up. See how that kind of lines up.
My eyes might have been
To the outside here. Yeah, just let it settle down. Squeeze it. Now let it pick it up and turn it around. We'll go around this way. Right in the middle of the group. That's the key. Try to stay in there.
You have to press your fingers in to open it. Okay, yeah. So you're going to be responsible for part A, you're responsible for part B. Yeah. It helps if like you're reaching across here, use your fingers and kind of thumbs in and then push up. I'm going to try this side. Try it right here. There you go, pull toward you. You probably have more strength. The next one. And you're going to need your stick because when you're done, you're going to wipe with your stick to keep it from running down the edge. So you'll just kind of pick this right up and pour right into that. And you'll use your stick at the very end. So you can grab your stick there. Yeah, make sure you can see that guy. What I found is just over 500 is enough to pour right where we need it. So 5 inch should be perfect. Remember, use your stick, wipe
Yeah,
along
right.
the edge. Looking good. Nice job. And just wipe that right back into your container. Cool. Like a pro. Yeah. Alright, just use your stick so when you're done, you do
Ooh, I put too much.
so when you're done, just kind of do that. Like that. Alright, are you right there?
No, at 350
Okay.
is better than my 6.
Yeah, that's perfect. Can you do that?
I'm almost at 550.
Alright, so you're gonna have to put some transfer a little bit back. So just try to keep it from running down the edge. It'll make working with it a lot easier. When you do that same trick, just kind of wipe it to break it when you're done. Good. And we'll do it again. There we go. Alright, keep it nice and flat this time. Let's see where you're at.
Just a little bit over.
Okay. Yeah, you probably need your stick. And then give it a moment to kind of level out. Pull through it. Perfect. Let's do this. We got a little extra on the table. Last one. They look pretty even. We're going to double check the numbers just to make sure. See those. They have to be pretty darn close. If one is dramatically different than the other.
I've got more than her.
Yeah, so let's drop yours.
Okay.
Match. And this one is just over 500, right? Zach, or, Zach. Let's see. Yeah, that was just over. So let's put a little bit of yours back. Right here. It won't take very much.
Which one is the really gimpy one?
Part B. This one should be heavier. And this is a fast set. The stuff that we were using before was a little longer. Yeah, we had one that, all right, hold those two side by side, pull your numbers back out, just to make sure that all that looks good. All right, give that just a moment to settle out, and then just pop something one more time. Oh, it's better, you guys agree? We still have a hair more, but I think that'll be okay.
Okay.
All right, let's go get that blue top back on here, and we'll press it down. So let's make sure we got an extra mix stick that hasn't touched anything.
Right here.
Okay, so the trick will, oh yeah, always got stuff. All right, so we'll start with part A. We'll mix B inside of here. We want to scrape every little bit out. And we're going to do the same thing. That means scrape in the back, scrape the sides, scrape the top. And we're not going to have a whole lot of time. I just worry about timing.
Do you want to do it?
Nope, I'm going to let you guys do it.
Okay.
You get one shot. If we miss it, it's going to harden up right in that bucket. We'll have one big giant button, but not the size of the one. We can kick it around and throw it down. I believe you. You guys can do it. Yeah, that's it. You want to get every little bit out. So the trick is going to be, right now, we've got no timetable. The minute that touches this, we got a timetable. So we're going to, kind of pour. That one's going to be heavier. So we'll kind of scrape top, bottom, and kind of work. What I found is instead of going like that, work back and forth until it starts to almost pour all the way out. Hit the back, scrape it, and then, yeah, we'll try to let it go. Just go a little bit back and forth. And don't rush yourself. You got it. I feel like time goes crazy, right? Come in, you go too fast. Doesn't come out right. You got this. Keep inside the cups, you know what you're doing. Good. Nice technique. Alright, we're in the critical moment as they're scooping through here. Our timer has begun. Right, we got all the little
Did you
bits.
pour one yet?
Nope, not yet.
No?
So we're getting ready to do right here. So that's our pour mark. Alright, look good. Yeah. This is good. Okay, just a little bit more. Alright. We've got 1 minute to get all of this mixed up now. That means get that stick in there. You want to try to avoid putting air into it. And make sure you tilt it to the side. You scrape the sides all the way around. Scrape the bottom. You got to mix it in really good. You got 50 seconds.
Then we have to pour.
Yep, then we got to pour. We're going to pour right in the very center.
Okay, cool.
We're going to pour a little bit high. We don't want to flop it all down at once. The trick by pouring a little bit slow and high is to break the air bubbles down. So there'll be less air bubbles in our pocket. Because this cures so quick, the long ones, the air bubbles have a chance to kind of work their way up and you'll see them pop. This one goes pretty quick. And literally in 30 minutes we'll be able to pour it right back out. Actually, go ahead. And if you grab one more stick, that's okay if it's sticky, just got one.
You can come in, but just don't cross the corner.
Looking good. Make sure it makes all those sides. Alright, you guys feel comfortable with that?
No, you can go around there. You won't be in the way.
Okay. We're good. Let's do it.
Okay.
So scrape your stick. Clean your side. Alright. We're going to set that right to the side. Alright, just take it. Pour right in the middle.
Okay, because it
Pour
feels like
from
there's
up
like
higher.
water.
Go higher.
Okay,
Nice and slow. Pour back just a little bit. Yep. Keep it going. Kind of get that same. Just like that.
Once the pressure
Pour a little bit more.
I'm just worried
It's running backwards. You want the bubbles to go slow.
No, I think
Okay, pour in that same spot.
should be perfect.
Okay.
I know,
Bring it up
it
higher
does
if you
kinda
can.
bring it a little.
Same amount that you're pouring.
This noise is fun.
It more feels like there's like more trapped in that.
Keep going down. Yeah, the bubbles are kind of breaking on the way out. Look nice. Pouring in the same spot makes that perfect. Okay, you're gonna need that. As it gets lower and closer, you're gonna end up scraping. I don't think you're gonna have any waste. I think we're gonna be right up to those little marks on there. We want to stop just below where that bad is. Those two ribbons.
Almost.
Hot drops. Put it in the jar.
I think we are gonna have some extra.
Yeah.
Because it's like at the line.
Yeah, 500 puts us a little bit underneath it. 510, yeah, scrape the sides. Yeah, scrape them up high, like in the middle. Scrape down, and get to the other side. I want you all the way to the bottom. Yep, there you go. Make sure you get all the way to the back there too. Good teamwork on that. Just kind of take it and you're kind of wiping it down at the same time. Just be mindful of where the streams are going. Yeah, we're gonna be right at the edge. We gotta be careful not to put it on the sides of the pan. Scrape it against the edge here if you need to scrape it. Alright, Jack, bring it this way a little bit. Right here. Alright. Does that help? We'll see what we got. It's about the paper towel here. So we're just getting a little bit short, so we're gonna need this last little bit.
Kinsey, can you move that beaker toward you? Good, thank you.
Right about there.
Okay.
See what we can do. Every little bit's gonna help. How we get close to that line?
See, there's red.
Uh-huh.
I go back green. But there's like a little grid of LEDs that are inside of it. So the whole inside's lighting up. The top works really well because it
Could
bounces.
you lift that off again and just kind of tip it toward my camera so I can see that in there? Yeah, nice. Very good. Okay.
on top of it.
Okay, yeah, you can put it down now. Great.
So it's kind of cycling. The sensor broke, so it's kind of wigging out a little, but that's okay. Kind of, you get the effect. Okay. Just let it run.
Okay, so you want to just look at me
Okay.
and start by telling me your name and your occupation, and then what the project is that you're working on with the kids.
Okay. Well, my name is Jim Gray. My occupation is engineer. Have an extensive background in both hardware and software development. So what we're doing for this project, this is kind of a cooperative effort between myself, my little small consulting company, Gray 8, and the Makerspace. So what we were doing with the kids, the idea was we were doing small one-off projects or little classes in electronics and decided, why don't we expand this and turn it into a full-blown project? Let's run the kids through an entire product development life cycle. So we started this the first of the year. So we went from and as luck had it,
Okay, can you hold on a second?
sure.
Sorry.
That's
Okay.
okay.
All right. So let's just start with the project that you're working on, and
Okay.
and in a synopsis of what you're actually making.
Okay. So the idea was to run the kids through an entire product development life cycle, and as luck would have it, I have a daughter that's holding an event next week, May 14th, called the Music Olympics in Charlottesville, and the kids are going to play Music Jeopardy. So what we decided was, why don't we go ahead and build the software, the game that they'll use for the event, but also the hardware. I keep saying the set. What that's going to comprise of is buzzers for the kids. And so we went through the entire life cycle from beginning, sat down, we did the sort of the brainstorming, requirements analysis. We have stickies up on the wall in the classroom where the kids put out all their ideas and concepts. And then from there, we continue to refine the design. And then we stepped through each week. We did little courses on each piece of technology. So they got exposed to mold making, they got exposed to woodworking, they got exposed to software development, doing web-based applications, writing HTML and cascading style sheets. Today, they just went through working with the CNC machine and sanding. So they've really touched every element of this project all the way through, and they've been there all the way through. And so hopefully, if we've done our job right, next week all this will go and be used as part of the event. So that's kind of the project in a nutshell.
And how was this particular piece used?
Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the buzzer. So the idea behind the game is, just like with Jeopardy, you'll have the game board, and we're going to project that up with a projector on the wall. But then there'll be teams. Instead of individuals, there'll be teams of kids, up to 6 teams. And so the thought when we went through this exercise, so Mackenzie was the one that said, I hate the button, the Jeopardy button. So we thought, let's come up with something a little better. That's something that's safe for kids, but also big enough that an entire team can react with it. So the concept was, let's build this big buzzer button. And we wanted it to light, so it wasn't just going to act as a switch, like I hit it and I know that I'm in. We wanted some visual feedback to say who was the first in. So through the design process, we kind of came up with the idea of let's hit it, and when we hit it, it lights up. So the first one in, theirs lights up, everyone else's doesn't. And we wanted it so that it couldn't hurt the kids, so that's why it has this nice silicone rubber top. And we wanted it to look kind of unique and unusual. So this is kind of why it ended up with the wood layers and the acrylic. And so the concept is it really is kind of visually very interesting, not super complex to put together, but also kind of safe and fun. So all of our sort of requirements really got met with this design. And this is the culmination of all that.
Tell me how did you find working with these high school students? What was it like working with them?
Fun, interesting.
Okay, they don't hear my question, so you have to
Okay.
answer in a full sentence.
Right. So what I found that was very interesting with working with them is that not only are they picking up these technologies very quickly, which was really impressive, but they always have one little tidbit. They think differently than I do. And there was always one element to this where they interjected something that I went, oh, I never would have thought of that. So every week was one tidbit of that, and that helps kind of drive and course correct the design. And so when we end up with something like this because of their feedback, to me that was always the fun part of it. Is that I like it when it becomes more of a collaborative thing, and they're coming up with things that I just never would have thought of. So from that perspective, it was a positive.
So you didn't feel like you were just teaching, but that they were part of the project?
I did. Yeah, there were moments where you feel like you're teaching, but that's part of it. You have to teach them. And actually, this was a lesson learned for me. Is it's you realize they're coming in cold with a lot of this. So it's good to introduce the idea, explain the concepts and why we're doing it. But they were quick to pick it up and then from there run with it. So I think it kind of went both ways. The kids learned a lot, and I learned a lot. So.
Okay.
I
Yes,
think the interesting thing is that you both have the same experience this year of working with them for the first time and having the process. Because Judy has been working with them on video this year, And also, you know, the same concept of what I dreamt about, the professional coming and just ready to share with them and to build something, but also dealing with them, the teenagers. And I think you both went through a very interesting process of kind of building the relationship with them.
Yeah, you know, the other thing I found kind of interesting is, I guess it's like this with any team, but they all bring in a unique skill to the table. And oddly enough, they all brought a unique skill that really sort of helped the whole thing gel, which was kind of fascinating to see. Because you think up front, well, who's better at what, or how are we going to deal with these concepts? And to a certain extent, they kind of gravitated into these areas that were their skill sets, and it all just really helped feed the project, as opposed to sort of having this clash.
So can you give me some examples of the different skill sets that you found in each of the students?
Yeah, so Jack was always the how do you say that? The most practical. He was always about, well, you know, we could do it this way, but we could also do it in these 10 steps. We could also do it in these 2 steps, right? Which makes it, okay, you get a point, right? Anthony really just, he kind of picks up anything you throw at him, right? You know, before the day we did the web pages, he was ahead of me. We were stepping through building the game board, and I turned around and Anthony's 10 steps ahead of me already in the class. So that was kind of interesting. He kind of picked up on the concept and really went with it, right? You know, Sumner's kind of detail oriented and he kind of picks up on those little details, but he kind of carries them through. He's the one that's going to sort of notice. And anything he does, he kind of follows through and brings it to fruition. And then Mackenzie is always she's sort of the quiet but very thorough type. Anything she touches, she goes through, she follows well, and she does a good job. And she just kind of picks it up on her own. And she's also sort of kind of the creative aspect of this too. She's always coming in with, you know, she was the one that said, oh, the buttons are horrible. And when I said, what is the one thing about Jeopardy that you, give me that one word or that one phrase that really to you defines Jeopardy, hers was blue. Which, that's another aha moment, because I went, you know, I've watched Jeopardy for years and just never paid attention that everything is blue, right? So each of them has this uniqueness that kind of came to bear on the project.
What do you say with Dallas?
You know, and Dallas again is this, you know, Dallas picks up the concept, he gets the idea. So the aha moment with Dallas was, remember we were doing circuits.
Yeah.
Previously we had gone through circuit class and I came back and was walking through a problem and everyone's quiet and not answering the question. And I look over and Dallas has already got it all written out and he's already got it all figured out. He's just not saying anything. You know, and as soon as I point that out, he's like, oh yeah. You know, that's another aha moment. I'm like, he had it. You know, and he surprised me with that. So I think all these kids, you know, I guess it's just part of that age, but they all are very intuitive. They pick up things very quickly. They follow through with them. And I think the other is they're gelling more, they're communicating more. They're a little more open, so ideas are popping up more, which is what I like too.
What do you find challenging or difficult or surprising in communicating with them, working with them in such a way?
Challenging was, I would say probably the most challenging, just feedback, you know, but I think it's just a question of the age, right? I'm, you know, coming from a background of running engineering group and dealing with developers, they're not shy about giving their opinion. And usually when I'm running brainstorming meetings, everyone just you get too much information, right? Whereas they were a little reluctant to kind of share, especially up front. But I think over time they've loosened up. They've gotten more, they're communicating more, they're telling me more, they're giving their opinion more, which is good. But I think that was just kind of getting used to each other. I kind of really sort of just wrap it up to that.
How did you find them in terms of cooperating with each other?
Fairly well. They do, well, it's not so much collectively cooperating as, you know, what you have is they kind of pair up, which is good, and they kind of work off each other. And I've learned that, and that's great. So Anthony and Dallas will always work together. and you know that, and you kind of put them on tasks where they can kind of work together and complement each other. They weren't confrontational at any point. It's just, I think overall they were fine as far as collaboration is. It's just, you know, I think this is with any team. What you have is people who get along better with others, and they kind of work together, and that's fine, you know.
And what skills that do you think that they got from that kind of as a learning process, or skills that you can say that this is a kind of skills for life that they got from this process?
Well, there's the actual skills that I hope they've learned with respect to, you know, doing the woodworking, doing the fabrication. Hopefully they've picked up some on, like the web design. I think, if nothing else, I think they've got a better concept of how do web pages work, how do web apps work, what's going on behind the scenes. I think also, hopefully the brainstorming sessions, the requirements, I know that early on it was, wow, we seem to be going over this over and over and over again. But that really is part of a development process. You really do kind of, you know, to me it's like a big ball of clay. You kind of keep squeezing and turning and working it until you really do get it in the shape you want. And then sometimes you have to go back 2 or 3 times to validate it. It seems like you're hashing over the same thing, but in reality, every time we're refining, we're getting a new little piece of the puzzle that's being added. The beauty of that, and hopefully I hope they pick up on this, is by going through that exercise up front, I know it's a little painful, everything's smoothed out on the end, right? So all the design, everything kind of fell into place because of the work we did up front.
Cool. Any other questions? Anything you'd like to make, any comment you'd like to make about the Montessori method of teaching rather than, you know, going to be a lecturer at a school?
I think this is a fantastic approach. I mean, personally, I think...
Again, because I didn't hear my question.
Oh, yeah. So
when you say, can you say the Montessori is a fast... Okay.
So my perspective on the Montessori approach and just this project approach, I think this is a big win. I think that they're picking up their learning skills much faster. They're getting real world experience, and they're getting this sort of team collaborative experience. I think more schools should be doing this, quite honestly. It just, to me, not only do I feel like they learned a lot very quickly, but it was also helpful for me. But the other is just people that were coming and going during this process here at the Makerspace. Lots of feedback of, I wish my kid was doing that. Oh my gosh, I wish my kid's school would do that. I wish they would do more of this. I've even had adults that came in and said, I wish I were part of that class. So I think this is a great model, and I think it should sort of be reused and refined more and more and more. I think the kids would pick up, how do I phrase it? They would be more, adapt to the real world coming out of school, going through this exercise and going through it multiple times, I think.
Excellent. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, unless there's anything else you want to say, I think we're good.
No, I think overall it was just a really fun and positive experience. I'm ready to do it again.
We will do this again. We just started.
Yeah.
Only the first round.
Yeah, look what we came up with. It's kind of fun.
Great.
Tactile appropriation. You remember our talk
What's that?
about the tactile? What I told you about Walter Benjamin?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
You got it, you know?
Yeah, it's really kind of amazing. You know, the other thing I think is so fascinating about this is, so working on this and having people, you know, things are open and people come and go. And so the first night that we got this going, it's just, everyone that came through was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
It's really
Yeah, and they touch it and they want to see what it's like, and, you know, they want to react to it, you know. So I take that as a net positive. I think we did our job. You know, if it's creating the wow factor, which is what I always think you want to go for in a product. I think we got the wow factor out of it, which is amazing. And I'm hoping the kids I feel like the other thing is that you get a sense of accomplishment out of this process. I think that's one of the big wins too, and I probably should have said that earlier, but they're seeing results, they're seeing positive feedback from the results. That is a big confidence builder and booster. And I think the more they do it, the more that they'll sort of in tune with this. And I think that's what you get out of the real world. You know, going through this myself, school is one thing, but to get into the real world, get on a project, build a product that actually gets used and you see a benefit from it, that's a real shot in the arm. And once you do that and it's successful, you want to do it again and again and again. And I think getting that experience and getting that sense of accomplishment early on sets them up moving forward.
Great quotes.
Yeah, I agree with
Good.
As my button keeps changing colors.
that. It's
The sensor broke, but it's kind of triggering on its own.
so what we had when Jim shared with me this idea during winter break, Christmas break. We kind of got together and he told me about this idea and thought how to work it with the kids. And so kind of, and I shared with him one of the most important maybe scholarly piece that exists in the study of culture, modern culture, popular culture, is by Walter Benjamin. And he said that the difference between popular culture and the more traditional art, popular art and traditional art, that the art is built on the original. There is the aura of the original. You see David, and the statue, you see the Mona Lisa. This is an original. There's one item of that, and you look at that. There's the observation and there's the aura of the original. And he said popular culture is not built because it's mechanically reproduced. There's no original anymore. And there's no aura of original, so it's not like the religious feeling of, you see the sublime, the metaphysical by seeing, and he tries to predict I'm talking about the 30s, how modern art in the area of mechanical reproduction would be when there's no original. And he said that the future of art is architecture because it's built on tactile appropriation, the aesthetical experience comes from touching and appropriating. It's part of my life, and I think that it kind of, and Jim liked it very much, and I think he took it very much because all this button, all this buzzer, you just want to touch it, to hug it, to see. I keep, the kids when we came here, and they saw that the first time, they immediately they made it dirty because they immediately played with it frisbee. because you just want to touch it, to play with it, and all of that. You want to hug, you want to take it home.
Yeah, it's so funny because I've always said I always think that the win is if whatever you work on and someone wants to walk in and go and touch it, then you've done your job. So everybody definitely wants to touch it. So that's good.
Cool.
So hopefully we'll be able to use these on other projects as well.
Great.